Hey everybody, I'm Aiden,
And I'm Andrew.
and welcome back to the Deep Focus Show. And today we're going to be doing our picks for, I guess, our fantasy Oscars for 1955 through 1959. So, yeah, kind of just going through these years and naming our favorites in all these categories. So, yeah, kind of what's your overall kind of opinion of these years?
Um, for me, I'm really big on the second half of this decade. It has a lot of there were a couple films in the 40s and early 50s that are up there for me, but this has like some of my favorite, classic um, golden era movies. So I'm excited to talk about some of them.
Yeah, I like this period a lot, and I recently watched a couple like just before doing this, that were like on my list. So got it expanded a little bit. But yeah, I'm ready to get into 1955. You want to go first or?
Sure, why not? So I'll be kind of focused on like a particular one for a lot of this year. I guess it just kind of rose to the top. So my Best Picture winner and Best Director winner would be for Night of the Hunter. So Charles Laughton, impressive as a debut for him and his only directorial feature, very skillfully made, and perhaps with his long history as an actor, maybe helped bring his abilities behind the camera. Didn't get too much award credit at the time, but I'm happy to recognize it. It's like a classic thriller, and it was also covered on Deep Focus before, I believe. So
Yeah.
eerie, atmospheric shots, lots of suspense, great performances. For a screenplay, I'm going to give it to a French film called Les Diaboliques. It's based on a novel, and this is an excellent psychological thriller that at times becomes kind of like a horror. Centers on this boarding school run by like a callous headmaster, but it's actually owned by his more kind but sickly wife. And at the center of this is like a plot between her and the husband's mistress to kill him, but things don't go quite according to plan. So there's some really cool twists and turns to this one, and it keeps you on the edge of your seat once things kick off. Easy to see it as an inspiration for Psycho, as Robert Bloch, who wrote Psycho, the book, is on record as saying this was his favorite film. And for Best Actor, I'm going to go back to Night of the Hunter for Robert Mitchum. Really iconic role for him, playing like this diabolical serial killer preacher. He's almost like a real life fairy tale villain in this. For actress, I'm going with Grace Kelly for To Catch a Thief. Technically, it's be back to back wins from me since I did pick her for Rear Window as well. Always a charming presence in these Hitchcock films, playing off Cary Grant here. In this one, she kind of plays it's like kind of like flirty and mercurial. Has to balance being suspicious of Grant's character's history, but at the same time as this romantic interest as well. Pretty good dynamic. And for supporting actor, I'm going with Paul Maurice, or Maurice, I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce it, from Les Diaboliques. His role is pivotal in the story, both with the cruelty shown in the early parts of the film and kind of how he's used later on. Less said about the specifics, the better. If you haven't seen it, just check it out if you want to know. And then for supporting actress, Lillian Gish, Night of the Hunter. She's actually a silent era actress who would continue working in film all the way into her 90s. Here she has a neat role as like a lifeline protector for the children being targeted by Mitchum. So yeah, those are my 1955 picks.
Yeah, we have a lot of agreement this year on, I think we line up on four of those. So for Best Picture, as well as Best Director, I also went with Night of the Hunter. It's one of my favorite movies. I think the how moody the shooting is, the cinematography is so excellent. It's so well kind of staged and all the performances are great that it was a really easy pick for this year. It's one of my, favorite movies out there. And for director, it's very sad that he never made a second film. I believe he was planning on making a second one, but he never got to it. That I think was supposed to be an adaptation of the book The Naked and the Dead, but it ended up being made without him. But yeah, it's really sad because this movie is awesome and it didn't really get any, even not even just Oscar buzz, but it was kind of very poorly received critically and didn't make any money. So it's pretty sad. You know, maybe I'll put this on Triumph Flops sometime. But my pick for Best Actor, I'm going with a movie I saw for the first time very recently. I'm going with Tyrone Power in The Long Gray Line. This is just a really, this is a really great movie. It's by John Ford, you know, classic director. And here his performance is really the center of it. It's an epic about he plays an instructor at West Point and he gets to see all of his like cadets go off, and it's really the story of his whole life. And it's really cool to see that you know, Tyrone Power kind of plays him differently as like a young man versus in middle age, and then eventually as he's old. And the ending of the film is just really, really beautiful and really cathartic. So it's a great movie, and I'm gonna give him actor for that. Best actress, I'm gonna pick Grace Kelly from To Catch a Thief. I love these Hitchcock movies. I love this era. And you know, I just watched Dial M for Murder last night, which on your recommendation, which was also really awesome. But yeah, this is just another great one. Great atmosphere, and I like her performance as well. It's yeah, everything you said, it hits all the marks that you'd want for this kind of movie. Um, for best supporting actor, this was kind of a star-making performance for him. I'm going with Sidney Poitier from Blackboard Jungle. He plays like, I guess, like a troubled teenager kind of, even though he's like, I think 30 when he filmed this. But it's a really great performance, and it's really clear to see why it made him like such a star and like a household name, because he's so captivating in it. And yeah, it's just a really cool movie, and I really like it a lot. Best supporting actress, I'm also doing Lillian Gish from The Night of the Hunter. Yeah, I agree. Like her credentials, and you know, she was in all those D.W. Griffith films like Broken Blossoms and Intolerance, and she still has that very theatrical pedigree in this one. It's a really great movie. Um, and her performance, especially near the ending, she gets a lot of really great material to work with, which is awesome. And then my pick for best screenplay, I'm gonna do William Rose for The Lady Killers. This is a movie I really like a lot, kind of classic Ealing comedy with Alec Guinness, Peter Sellers, a lot of great actors. But the story is just so well paced, so frantic. It's like mile a minute. It has comedy, suspense, action. It's everything, and it's one of those things where the screenplay just really works super well. But yeah, that's my picks for 1955. So a lot of lining up there.
Yeah, I haven't seen The Lady Killers yet, but someday
It's
too.
awesome. Yeah.
56. So uh, I think I wanted to go with a fun one here for Best Picture. It strikes me as the case where like the whole rises above the sum of its parts, becomes something kind of magical. So that's Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Really on point political allegory in the middle of like McCarthyist America. Subtle, slow building thrills, and then great payoff. I'm also going to give Don Siegel, the director, for that. I think it's a testament to his vision to make this one stand out. On the basic level, it's like the sci-fi horror B movie in the spirit of many others at the time, but I think he brought it to its absolute zenith. And the only thing that would have made it more perfect would probably be ending the film at the moment that he wanted it to end. But I guess the studios overrode him on that one. For screenplay, I am going to go with The Killing. It's an ensemble piece that plays around with time, surrounds the heist with a lot of moving parts. So there's a lot that goes into making like an engaging, tight script in addition to that. Nothing like a great final note to leave things on, and I think they do on this one too. So The Killing gets the screenplay. Best actor, I'm going to give it to your guy, Alec Guinness, Bridge on the River Kwai. Oh, sorry, I'm 1 year ahead. I'm still on 56. Spoiler alert. John Wayne in The Searchers for 56. And like I think it's now considered like perhaps his finest performance. Scorsese sure seemed to think so. Uh, One to not go in expecting like a simple Western protagonist. There's a lot of moral ambiguity with the character dealing with like atrocities that happen to his family, and then having his own history of like racism and deep-seated hatred. So John Wayne for the Searchers for actor, and then for actress, we'll go with Ingrid Bergman in Anastasia. Wasn't sure what direction I wanted to go with this pick, so I'm going to back the Academy on this one. Kind of a rags to riches imposter story with her character at the center of it. There's kind of two levels of acting in this one: the performance and the fact that the character herself is trying to pass as Anastasia, the long lost daughter of the Russian Empire, to other people. So very cool. Supporting actor and actress, I'm going to go with Alicia Cook Jr. and Marie Windsor, both for The Killing. And they play a couple, so I wanted to kind of highlight them together. It says a fair bit about the dynamic of them that I'm highlighting both together. Cook as like this submissive but scheming loser, always trying to prove himself to his wife, and then reaching a breaking point. And then Windsor as like the duplicitous, relentlessly cold-hearted wife. In the end, nothing good can come from that except for the memorable performances it leaves behind. So, giving them supporting actor and actress for 56.
Yeah, it's this year, I had a lot to pick from, I guess, but I went with for Best Picture. I'm going back to Hitchcock again with The Man Who Knew Too Much. He did two versions of this movie, one in the 30s, one now. This one is way better. It's so good. Jimmy Stewart and Doris Day are the leads, and it's just a perfect suspense movie. It's, you know, it's in that golden period of kind of 50s Hitchcock where every single movie he made was great. There aren't any bad ones. This one is a perfect taut thriller suspense movie, and it just rules. For Best Actor, I'm going to do Sterling Hayden in The Killing. Really awesome performance, really great movie too. And you know, I really think him as the lead is a good centerpiece for that. For Best Actress, Doris Day, The Man Who Knew Too Much. The famous, you know, part is this is the movie where Que Sera Sera is from, and they give her like two chances to play it in this movie, and I love that song. And but I also just like her performance is really good. Like she, you know, she gets, you know, very kind of desperate at the end when it's a very emotional moment because her son is missing, obviously. And you know, it's kind of yeah, the tension ratchets up and her performance gets more intense as the film goes along, which is cool. For Best Supporting Actor and Actress, I'm gonna do both from the same movie, but not the same movie that you did. I'm gonna do from Forbidden Planet, Leslie Nielsen and Anne Francis. This is just a really cool movie. I like this one a lot. I love the kind of animation of the monster at the end. That's a really cool touch. And I think it's very atmospheric and a very good movie. And it's kind of pulpy, but you know, it has a very big charm to it that I like. So yeah, I'm going with that. For Best Director, I'm mixing it up. I'm going to do Albert Lamorisse for The Red Balloon, kind of a really great direction on this. You know, a lot of where it was filmed doesn't actually exist anymore. I remember reading because like Paris was kind of demolished and like rebuilt in the 60s, so it's kind of a time capsule. But he really gets into these very claustrophobic kind of tense shots at the end, and it's really and that combined with the lush color of everything is kind of an interesting contrast that works, but it's kind of unexpected, which is I think why I like it a lot. And then for Best Screenplay, I'm going to do The Killing, which was screenplay by Kubrick. I think it's like a really complex film, kind of story wise. There's all these moving parts, and things happen twice, and they go out of order. So the ability to wrangle that all into a successful whole really ought to be commended, and that's why I'll give him the best screenplay pick. So yeah, it's mine for this year.
Nice. So you line up on that one. That's cool.
Yeah.
I do like Forbidden Planet a lot too, and Leslie Nielsen.
Yeah.
So great shout out. So 57 this year to me was the most stacked of any we've covered so far. I'm not sure if we'll get one that will be more difficult to make decisions on. Several movies I love that I probably like. I just couldn't find a place to represent. And yet my big winner today was still not in doubt. Um, maybe my favorite film. I don't know. On some days, that'll go to Best Picture, 12 Angry Men. Incredibly engaging film from beginning to end. 12 jurors holed up in one room for almost the entire duration. One juror holding out on a guilty verdict until gradually the tide turns. So slowly we get reveals on the details of the trial and have us along with the characters figuring out our allegiances and just kind of watching the psychology involved and the prejudice. So I think it's just a perfect film for all these reasons. It's also running away with best screenplay. But for director, I'm going to go with Billy Wilder, Witness for the Prosecution. Just another amazing courtroom drama. Whereas 12 Angry Men, I think, soars on the great script. I've got to recognize like the directing side here. Wilder, who kind of sets the scene of another great story with the twists and turns. Performances and execution are big here to get at the subtleties of what's going on beneath the surface. Basic story, a man accused of killing an older woman who left him her inheritance, and his wife serves as a witness not in his defense but for the prosecution. One of those films you don't want to get too into the details from there, and just encourage people to check it out if they like these kind of stories, because it's a great one. So now I'll go back to Alec Guinness for Bridge on the River Kwai. Best Actor was the actual winner for the year, I believe. Apparently, the first choice for the role, ironically, was Charles Laughton. His year was almost overloaded with greatness if he did this and Witness for the Prosecution, but he ended up backing out on this one, and ends up being a huge role for Guinness, who by all accounts brings like a lot of subtlety and brilliance to the role as the lieutenant. And for actress, I got to give that to Marlene Dietrich, Witness for the Prosecution, playing the wife to Tyrone Power's character and therefore the witness in the title. She's tasked with having to play like a really complex role with her testimony and then the directions the story goes from there, and delivers on that. For supporting actor, I'm going to give that to Lee J. Cobb for 12 Angry Men. Plays probably what would be considered the main antagonist of the film to Henry Fonda's lead. The character, like he's the character most eager to convict, most steadfast against the shift of the room, with the most deeply rooted prejudice. It's an important role in the dynamic to get right, and he was up to the task there. And then lastly, for supporting actress, going back to Witness for the Prosecution with Elsa Lanchester. Laughton played the senior counsel and Lanchester like his nurse. They were a longtime couple in real life, and the chemistry there is really palpable. She's quite funny and endearing in the support as a source of like encouragement, kind of knowing them better than anyone and able to call them out if necessary too. So yeah, really loaded there. Lots of ones I wanted to include but couldn't, like, I don't know, Paths of Glory would have been definitely an option. But yeah, those are my picks.
Yeah, I agree, this was kind of the hardest year ever for me so far. And this is one where even though it didn't make it wasn't my pick for Best Picture, I'm pretty satisfied with the Academy giving it to Bridge on the River Kwai. I'm cool with that. Like, that's a great movie. But I have to agree with you. My Best Picture is 100% 12 Angry Men. This is like top 5 film of all time for me. I think it's just a perfect masterpiece in like every way. Like, I really don't have any criticisms, I don't think, of it. And yeah, it's just one of those movies everyone should check out. And it's a movie I've seen probably like 10 times. I don't know, like a ton of times. Um, for Best Director, I'm gonna do David Lean, Bridge on the River Kwai. He's one of my favorite directors of all time. And I guess this is kind of a teaser for the 60s where I'll be really, really hardcore supporting his stuff. But he does an amazing job with the scale. He's a totally different director with these epics than he was just 10 years ago with like Brief Encounter and stuff. It's a totally different style. And both of them are awesome, but this is just great. For screenplay, I'm gonna do Witness for the Prosecution, Billy Wilder. It's just a perfect script. It's so kind of perfectly told, you know. It's one of those things where I always think Billy Wilder, his scripts are like kind of flawless technically. Like when it comes to this, The Apartment, Sunset Boulevard, so many of his movies, they don't have like any flaws in the way they're written. And this is one of those things. There's no holes in the story, there's no holes in the characters, everything's tight, everything makes sense. It's just like perfect storytelling. Best actor. This is actually my second favorite film of the year, but I couldn't get it to winner. I'm going to do Andy Griffith from A Face in the Crowd by Elia Kazan. This is just an amazing movie. It's kind of a parable for like stardom and celebrity, and it really rides a lot on his performance, which is super amazing. He starts out as just like this like homeless drifter who like rises to fame as kind of like a political demagogue, and then the rest of the film is about his fall from grace and being exposed. But this is just an amazing movie. It's eerily relevant today in the era of, you know, social media and stuff. Seems kind of ahead of its time in that sense, and just one of my favorite movies ever. And Best Actress, I agree with you. I'm doing Marlena Dietrich for Witness for the Prosecution. Especially, well, I can't give this away, but there is one element in her performance that especially warrants this win. So yeah, I think she deserves this. It's a great performance, and the way she does the twists and turns of the script is really, really something else. Best Supporting Actor, I'm gonna do one of my favorite classic westerns, 3:10 to Yuma, Glenn Ford as this outlaw who's being brought to justice, as this kind of smooth talking, but he also has a violent streak kind of, and it's a really cool performance seeing his kind of eerie charisma and charm bubbling and trying to you know, convince his way out of getting on that train. And it's just a really great job. And Best Supporting Actress, I'm going to go back to A Face in the Crowd with Patricia Neal. She's an essential part of the movie as well, counterbalancing Andy Griffith's character. She's kind of, she wants to see the human side of him, but, and she, and over the course of the film, she kind of realizes like there's less and less of it there. And the ultimate, you know, climax of the film is her kind of rejecting him and realizing how kind of far gone he's become. So yeah, those are my picks. I agree, really. And again, Passive Glory, I couldn't get it on here, but I agree that's one of the best of this year. So yeah, that was a hard one to do.
Yeah, for sure. I'm glad we're able to spread it around a little bit. For 58, I actually had a recent addition for me that really impressed. I'm going to give Best Picture, and that's A Night to Remember. It's a British telling of the Titanic disaster, and there's an approach to this one that's like uniquely like clinical. We spend just a little bit of time with various characters before pretty much jumping right into the action, and even then, it's more like an ensemble of characters that represent types than like it being a character movie. And man, the disaster element doesn't disappoint in this at all. Like really impressive scale, nice effects. I was struck by just how much this kind of covers the details, a lot like the James Cameron film eventually does. I mean, granting that it's still depicting like a real life event, it generally feels like he was remaking this particular depiction with many of the choices in film. So once this gets going, it's the kind of movie that you just can't turn off. So that was a bit of a surprise Best Picture winner for me there. For director, I'm going to go with Orson Welles' Touch of Evil. Been a while since I've seen it, but I look forward to revisiting it. This one I almost had it in the bag before that long opening shot was even over. Good example of like the filmmaking going above and beyond and making it just that much more artful. Really cool cast of characters turning in performances, and like a late period film noir from a talent. So screenplay, I'm also going to go with Touch of Evil, like a really complex, suspenseful story of corruption that really needs the writing to hold up its end of the bargain to be successful too. And one more time, we'll go with Orson Welles' Touch of Evil for actor. My biggest hesitation with this pick is just where we draw the line for the lead in this film, but
Yeah.
I'd rather encompass more than less. And other than Kane, this role might be the first thing that comes to mind when I think of him. So, yeah, I'll give him the best actor. Memorable performance as the corrupt police chief. Another role that demands moral ambiguity and nuance. For actress, I'm going to go with Elizabeth Taylor in Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. Often considered like one of her best performances. Here she has like to navigate sensuality, frustration, and resentment in the middle of like this family melodrama. For supporting actor, I'm going with Theodore Bikel from the Defiant Ones. In a role like he's actually nominated for, he plays the sheriff like hunting the two men on the run. It's a necessary part because he has a job to do, but also brings like this compassion and humanity in contrast to like the state policeman. And then lastly, like a dark horse pick for supporting actress, Valerie Gaunt in Dracula. This is the Hammer adaptation of the classic vampire story. It's not a big role either, but she's part of this scene that always made a real impression on me. And she's like this Dracula's, I guess we'd say, mistress. Her place like added a level of menace and depravity to the situation in the film. There's sympathy brought out, but then it becomes ambiguous, like how much of this was ever genuine. So I wasn't really sure where I was going with that year for that, but I like that pick. So those are my 1958.
Great picks. And I saw A Night to Remember a very long time ago, but I didn't consider it for this because I figured it was too long since I've seen it. I couldn't like really judge compared to ones I'd seen more recently. But yeah, I agree. I like that one a lot. My best picture, I'm gonna go with Touch of Evil. Uh, yeah, it's just I recently did like a college project on this film talking about the music, which is another great aspect of it. But just thought the whole film is awesome. You know, you got Charlton Heston, Janet Leigh, Orson Welles, Marlena Dietrich, so many great actors, and then it's all brought together by the direction, which is awesome. And for me, that's also best director, Orson Welles. Just especially that opening shot, everyone talks about that, and then later the scene where like Quinlan like kills Grandy is such a tense and like claustrophobic crazy scene, and then the finale with them trying to record the confession, it's really a showcase for his talents as a director, which is really cool. Best actor, I'm gonna do The Defiant One, Sidney Poitier. This is a movie I like a lot. It's a movie I think has, you know, just kind of very good storytelling and very good performances. And I really like Poitier in a lot of these movies. Like he'll probably get some wins in the 60s for some of his stuff as well. Uh Best actress, I'm gonna do Vertigo, Kim Novak. This is a movie like I do have some problems with this movie, but I have to admit like the acting throughout is very phenomenal, and especially how she kind of has like a half dual role is very interesting, and it's a very cool choice, and she pulls it off very well. Best supporting actor, mix it up a little bit. I'll do Walter Matthau in King Creole, the Elvis movie. But you know, people should actually watch this movie because it's directed by Michael Curtis, you know, director of Casablanca, Robin Hood, many classic films. And it's a really great movie, really great filming and storytelling. And Matthau plays like basically like a gangster, I guess, who's pressuring Elvis's character into like entering the life of crime and stuff. Very cliched, but very fun movie. Supporting actress, I'll do Marlena Dietrich, Touch of Evil. Just a really great ambiguous performance. And especially at the end where she comes back and kind of comments on the state of Orson Welles' character. And it's always like uh it's always been crazy to me that she's like 20 years older than Orson Welles in this film because she looks way better than he does. Like he does not look that good, but it's a great performance and great movie. And then story, I'll do The Defiant Ones, written by Harold Jacob Smith. it's, a simple story, but it's told very well. So, yeah, so it's what got it for me because it fires on all cylinders in that way, which is very cool to see. So yeah, 1958.
Nice. So 59. Probably my second favorite of like this half decade we're covering of the ones we've done. And for Best Picture, I'm going with Ben-Hur. I think it just on like the epic spectacle aspect. I mean, when I think of Best Picture, things like this is where I see it coming across as like an event that comes to mind. I mean, like the chariot race alone is just really something special. But overall, I'm trying to spread the love here. So for director, I'm going with Alfred Hitchcock, North by Northwest. Continuing the pattern of movies like really iconic scenes. This to me is like the pinnacle of Hitchcock's action thriller style. It's funny, exciting, action-packed, big set pieces, looks great, like a predecessor of like a James Bond or the Bourne franchise. And then screenplay, that'll go to Anatomy of a Murder. Unsurprisingly, I'm going with another gripping courtroom drama. I always love these. This one centers like on a man on trial for killing his wife's rapist and using an insanity defense. And I'm struck by kind of how frank some of the dialogue is for the time. But despite the serious subject matter, they managed to keep it like lighthearted and almost wholesome at times too. So it's a really cool way to pull that off. For Best Actor, I'm going to go with Cary Grant for North by Northwest. Definitely, probably my favorite of his performances. I think he's perfectly cast in this role. Like this clever, fast-talking guy, but just kind of thrown into these unforeseen circumstances and having to navigate himself through it. And then for actress, we'll go with Marilyn Monroe, Some Like It Hot. Certainly one of her most iconic parts as the flirtatious, carefree Sugar Cane. Performance that is like magnetic on screen, and she brings like this naturalistic element to it. For supporting actor, George C. Scott, Anatomy of a Murder. Pretty memorable turn for me is he's playing like this like determined, like shark-like member of the Crown prosecution. He and Jimmy Stewart face off using every trick in the book on each other. And given the case, it does make us wonder at points like whose side we should technically be on. And then there's like a really great scene that builds this gotcha moment, and he's great in making that really land. So you'll get the supporting actor, and then for supporting actress, we'll go with Juanita Moore for Imitation of Life. She plays Annie Johnson, who meets like Lana Turner's character and becomes like her friend and housekeeper. As like a single black mother, she has to contend with the challenges of raising her mixed race daughter, and then the trials that come along with that. Really navigates along gender, class, and race in this one, and she does a great job with like a dignified, sensitive portrayal. And that'll close out my picks for the 50s.
Awesome. Yeah. This year, I got some, I guess, curveballs, but it's another really strong year. Best Picture, I'm going to do North by Northwest, one of my favorite movies ever made. Definitely my favorite Hitchcock film. I love that it's totally escapist, totally entertainment, and it's just a perfect movie. It's one of those where there's just no problems with it. It's just so much fun to watch. And for Best Actor, I wanted to mix it up a little bit. So I went with kind of an underdog pick. I picked Vincent Price and House on Haunted Hill. I really like these old, classic horror B movies. And I really especially like Vincent Price. I always think he has just a really great presence. And I'll definitely shout him out in a few of those like 60s Roger Corman, Edgar Allan Poe movies that are also pretty cool. Yeah, so Best Actress, I'm gonna do Ava Marie Saint in North by Northwest. It's just a really great performance. I think she might be the first pick of these who's still alive today for these Oscars, but that's cool. And it's a great performance and a great character. And the way she plays off Cary Grant's character, especially in the third act, is really cool, and it speaks to the great screenplay as well. For supporting actor, I'm going to do James Mason in North by Northwest. this is a really cool, just a perfect villain, I guess. And I really like that part of it. And I also, another thing I was considering is giving it to him for Journey to the Center of the Earth, which is also a movie from this year I really like a great deal, which he's in as a supporting role too. But that's also great. And for supporting actress, I picked Arlena Dahl from that. Just a classic science fiction film. It's on Disney Plus. I think it's like, an old Disney movie, but it just has great sense of spectacle, great scale, a lot like, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. It's really something cool. Uh, yeah, so best director, I went with totally kind of out of left field. I went with Clyde Geronimi, who is the director of Sleeping Beauty, the Disney film. And the reason I went with that is because, this is an animated movie and it's in 70 millimeter CinemaScope. Like that's an incredible technical achievement. It's such a big look, and it, especially with the art style, it's so ambitious. And I think this film took, 7 years to make or something, a very long production time, and it's a super ambitious format. So I really have to commend the film for that. It really fires on all cylinders in that respect. And then best screenplay, I'm in agreement with you on Anatomy of a Murder. It's another one of my favorite movies from this year. I love that I love the music in this one, but especially the script. It's just a perfect story, and the way it's paced, you have those courtroom scenes which are all so well done, the way they lay out the evidence. There's something just so great about a great courtroom drama when it comes to the writing, where it really, there's something so methodical about the way they're able to lay out kind of the characters' relationships and plot details and stuff. That's really cool. So yeah, that's my 59 picks, and yeah.
Nice job. I'm really glad you got Vincent Price on there. I was trying to fit
Yeah.
him in.
Well,
Maybe these will have something. Who knows?
yeah, I love them and stuff. But yeah, next time with the early 60s, I think I already kind of figured out my picture picks, and all of them are like top 40 movies for me ever. So I really love that early 60s decade.
I can really see us branching off in different directions here.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, I need to make my other picks, but I already kind of have my pictures selected. So we'll see you soon for that one. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. But
Everybody.
see you guys later.